am back to read some more Rebel Folklore. As a reminder, written by Icy Sedgwick, illustrated by Melissa Jerem. Beautiful. Oh, I'm just... That's epic. A riotous, bare-breasted, fang-toothed priestess palette of forms and vivid colours. What a description. Stories like these help us to understand ourselves and the lives of others. That's from Natasha Bowen, and the other one was from Amy Jeffs. They're the two people that have done the forward. What can we learn from the rebels and misfits of ancient stories? From birth to death, love, desire, nature, disease, grief and revenge, our ancestors made sense of the world through storytelling. Rebel Folklore celebrates 50 unique characters, outspoken women condemned as witches and anti-authority figures denounced as criminals, flawed heroes and relatable villains, and what they mean for us today. Very cool. I love the artwork on it. I love the colours as well. So epic. Okay, so this time it's gonna be, we're sticking with Europe, we're going with Baba Yaga. But next time we'll be going to Africa, the homeland. Part of my homeland anyway. Okay, so Baba Yaga is page 40 and I skipped right ahead to 79. Don't peek ahead. No, it's the type of book that you can just like leaf through. I'm looking at all these pictures and I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. Selkie, Banshees, Esta from Norway, Hesta, Rusalka. Here she is. Baba Yaga. Chicken Legs Hut. Sweepy Broom. Skulls. Yep. Is that a fly agaric? Is that what they are? Amanita something. I saw my first one of them. A blusher. Similar, not red though. Okay, so Baba Yaga from Russia. Look at the picture. I can't stop looking at her. That was so cool. The mountains, and look at the sky and the moon, the crescent moon. Very cool. So here's what it says. Baba Yaga. The trees rustle as something large bursts into the clearing. A giant mortar whizzes by and an ugly old woman directs it with an oversized pestle. She cackles as she dives back into the forest, the trees crashing in her wake. You flee in the opposite direction to Baba Yaga and pull up short when you see a wooden hut striding among the trees on giant chicken legs, the outside decorated with human heads. Baba Yaga, the legendary figure of Russian folklore, has become quite the favourite of the online folklore community despite her complexity, or perhaps because of it. She appears as either an old woman or a trio of old women, and even her name defies interpretation because, according to Baba Yaga scholar Andreas Strand, Baba can mean midwife or sorceress in Old Russian and grandmother in modern Russian, Serbo-Croatian. Yaga also proves tricky since it could translate as anything from snake to horror to witch to wicked wood nymph. I don't know which one's my favourite. She appears in folklore tales across Russia, Belarus and Ukraine, although she was first mentioned in a book about Russian grammar from 1755. She even gets a fascinating origin story in a 1780 collection of Russian fairy tales, in which Vasily Levshin explains the devil wanted to distill the essence of evil, so he put 12 horrible women into a cauldron and cooked them together. And Baba Yaga, the end result. Wow, the patriarchy, hey? Even though Baba Yaga is described as a witch, she prefers to fly in a mortar, wielding the pestle as a wand. She lives in a hut in the deepest, darkest darkest parts of the woods, although you'd struggle to find her home, not because the directions are hard to follow, but because the hut walks around the forest on its massive chicken legs at Baba Yaga's whim. Baba Yaga doesn't live alone, keeping 3 servants who roam through the woods on horseback. The White Rider represents the dawn, the Red Rider represents the sun, and the Black Rider represents the night, linking Baba Yaga with the natural cycles of time. As they're her servants, it suggests she has command over the sun itself. The more I find out about Baba Yaga, the more I love her. If you want to find the hut, and you'd have to be desperate to seek her help, you'd need someone to show you how to locate it. Many characters in the folktales get directions from magical threads, dolls, or feathers. Despite the terrifying hut, unconventional mode of transport, and fearsome reputation, people still sought Baba Yaga's wisdom. She'd never offer help of her own accord. But if you asked, then she might end up your best ally, as long as you successfully completed the tasks she set you. This was a high stakes game. Those who failed the tasks ended up in her cauldron as her next meal. Okay. But if a hero extracted a promise for help and managed to finish the tasks to her satisfaction, then she kept her promise and provided the help they needed. Perhaps the most famous story involving Baba Yaga is Vasilia the Beautiful, a Cinderella-like yarn that sees young Vasilia cast adrift when her mother dies and her father remarries. Her mother gives her a magical doll before she passes, but Vasilia is still struck with an unpleasant stepmother and horrible stepsisters. When Vasilia's father leaves on business, his new wife sells their home and moves the family to a cottage in the woods. The bully stepmother gives Vasilia almost impossible tasks, and eventually the stepsisters send Vasilia to Baba Yaga's hut in search of fire, counting on the witch's reputation for eating people. Baba Yaga is one of the few characters to act as both villain and helper in the same story. She is a force entirely unto herself, beholden to no one, unpredictable and contrary. Look at the pictures. Chicken leg hut. Love it. So unluckily for them, Baba Yaga isn't as predictable as they think. And she agrees to give Vasilia the fire she needs if she can finish a range of difficult chores. Baba Yaga is a far cry from the benevolent fairy godmother found in fairy tales, or folk tales, rather, and she has no intention of making Vasilia's work easy. The tasks are hard, like separating wheat kernels from grains of rice under a time limit, but Vasilia's doll helps her to complete them in time. True to her word, Baba Yaga gives her the promised fire in a creepy lantern made from a skull. I don't know if that's creepy. Is that creepy? Yeah, probably. And Vasilia heads home. The lantern incinerates her step-family when she returns, and Vasilia ends up marrying the Tsar of Russia, giving her a happy ending, while rewarding her hard work at the hands of Baba Yaga. It's certainly one way to solve your dysfunctional family dynamic. So I first came across that the Vasilia and Baba Yaga legend myth from Women Who Run with Wolves, Dr Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and I listened to the audiobook. So if I recommend that, because she's a proper, what does she call it, a cantadora. She's a storyteller. She's grown up living stories, living, breathing. She's awesome at storytelling. I really enjoyed the book, but listening to her read it or listening to her speak it was inspiring, but also easier. Hearing her say it and follow the story and the ebb and the flow of the words and intonation and stuff, it was, yeah. So I first came across Baba Yaga's myth with Vasilia then, and lots of other stories as well. You should check it out. So early scholars looked for links between figures of folklore and ancient goddesses to see if these folk characters were deities hidden in plain sight in a new guise. Baba Yaga was one such figure, and a 1795 interpretation even linked Baba Yaga with Persephone, the Greek goddess of death and queen of the underworld. In the 19th century, Russian folklorists, inspired by the Brothers Grimm and their German folklore project, followed her appearances through European folktales to find a common thread. They found that time and time again she comes to embody storms, winter and death. Baba Yaga has become an inspirational figure for many, since she's so difficult to characterise. She can help the hero if she chooses to, giving her a degree of power and agency often denied to other female characters, but her aid comes with a price. Baba Yaga can also act as both the villain and the trickster, harming or hindering a hero who strays into her path. In some stories, she's all these things at once, and her unpredictability makes her unique in European folklore. Other characters tend to work in a binary way, either helping or harming the hero, and while many of the characters in this volume are ambiguous, few are quite as willfully individual as Baba Yaga. Russian folklorist Vladimir Prop divided characters from folklore into common roles, such as the hero, the helper, the villain, or the damsel needing rescue. Baba Yaga is one of the few characters to act as both villain and helper in the same story. She's a force entirely unto herself, beholden to no one, unpredictable and contrary. While we don't want to be the villain in our own lives, we can learn a lot from Baba Yaga's determined authenticity, ability to set and keep boundaries and live life on her own terms. Maybe that is why she is so intriguing to me. Very, very cool. Who shall we go to next? So the next is going to be Africa.